questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thanks for being here, Assistant Secretary. I authored a letter with colleagues, both bipartisan letter, and was pleased to see the NTIA reconsider its approach to letter of credit on the BEAD program. The success of this program definitely hinges on having service providers of all size. I think that's been discussed here, and I hope at this point you'll commit to the flexibility in your approach to the requirements that will strike a balance between accountability and fairness. And my specific question is, while I think that this the waiver has been a good step in the right direction, if a state seeks to waive the letter of credit outright at the onset, will you commit to engaging in a thoughtful review of all the waiver requests based on the risk associated with each of the state's reimbursement strategies?
We'll absolutely commit to working with states on their requests and looking at them carefully. I think the letter of credit, thank you for raising it, and thank you also for the members of Congress who weighed in on this. This, I think, is exactly the way we want to implement this program. We're trying, as you noted, we've got to be accountable. We've got to be good stewards of taxpayer money. We want to have the broadest set of people at the table. If we don't get it right, we are committed to reevaluating, just as we did in that letter of credit. And saying, okay, we need to change the rules here.
Thank you for that. And following up on barriers to deployment, permitting reform has been one of this committee's very top priorities across all industries. We've passed a number of bills, including the American Broadband Deployment Act, My Federal Broadband Deployment Tracking Act, and others, and we can't close the digital divide if projects are tied up in this red tape. What is NTIA doing to work with the federal agencies to streamline their permitting process or have them prioritize broadband permit reviews?
It's an incredibly important question. We are keenly concerned about it as well. We know that we're not going to succeed if we put out all of this money and then projects are tied up for years. And we know this is one of the top concerns we've heard from developers. Or deployers, I should say, providers of networks. What we're trying to do is work within the federal government first and foremost, because that's where we have the greatest control. We've got a permitting group that's set up across agencies. We're working with it. We've gotten new resources to build out a bigger permitting team at NTIA. And the biggest thing we're trying to do is work with the other federal land, like the land use agencies who really manage a lot of the federal permitting processes to make sure that they're aware of what this is doing and make sure they have the resources to move us quickly through the process. And we're also trying to seek ways that we too could streamline the parts that we can control.
Thank you. Moving to the National Spectrum Strategy, EMBERS, the administration released the NSS. I was disappointed, in looking at several pieces and parts of this. Although I identified about 2,700 megahertz of spectrum for study, it doesn't commit to freeing up a single megahertz of spectrum for auction. Right. And this is where we've got to compete with China. This really is so important. We've got a national security side, we've got a commercial side. Does NTIA have specific metrics to reach when it comes to the strategy and identifying and allocating contiguous bands for full power licensed spectrum? And if so, what specific procedures will be in place to ensure that these goals are reached? And I have another question after this.
Okay, good. I'll just say very quickly, we share this goal. We share this goal. We know we're only going to succeed on the international stage if we are freeing up and creating this pipeline. I will just say this study is a real thing. We need to be able to make sure we're doing this smartly. All of these bands are encumbered. All of them have uses. If we don't look carefully and figure out exactly how we move systems or where the sweet spot in these bands is, we're not going to succeed. So we are committed to moving quickly, and we're committed to making sure that we know, and we talk to industry all the time about their needs, and that's the metric that we're looking at.
When you look at the EMBERS study, and it talks about the lower three, it says that it can be shared if things, if certain conditions are met, and if certain conditions are agreed upon. So is there a timeline, just kind of yes or no? Do you have a timeline yet?
Yes, we do have a timeline.
Okay.
For sharing and then also for studying whether relocation would free up some more space.
One of the concerns I've had is just, especially being a veteran, having worked in all the spectrum areas as a fighter pilot, the Secretary of Defense submitted the EMBERS report to Secretary of Commerce in September. A couple of months have passed. We still haven't seen a copy of this. And last week, the chairwoman of the FCC informed the committee that she had not seen the EMBERS report. So we need to see a classified report of this. And when are you planning on briefing members on the EMBERS report in a classified setting? And when can we expect the full report to be available for members and heads of other agencies like the FCC?
Yes. Any day now is the short answer. We were desperately working very, very hard to try to schedule something before this hearing. It didn't happen. We've briefed your staff. We are committed to briefing you as soon as we can.
Critical that we see that we can weigh in.
Yeah.
With that, I yield back.
Thank you. The gentleman's time has expired. This time,